The Sundown Close-Up 2014 is fast approaching, and Senator Jeanne Shaheen under fire on the airwaves. We're going to talk about the shot across the bow and why some Democrats say bring it on. And is Medicaid expansion the latest battlefield when it comes to the so-called war on women? Well, both sides of the issue that is certainly far from resolved. Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh McKelvin. Sure, it's not even summer of 2013, but when you're talking about a pivotal Senate seat potentially up for grabs, it's really no surprise that the ad wars have already started. And if you haven't seen the first salvo on our air, here's part of it.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen cast the deciding vote for Obamacare. Now, employers may cut your weekly work hours from 40 to 29 to avoid the new taxes and penalties.
Well, that ad was put together by a new state-based conservative group, Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire. This morning, I am joined by a consultant for that group and the founder of Right On Strategies, Mike Biundo, and representing a counterpoint, Harrell Kirstein from the State Democratic Party. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. All right, so your group that you're consulting for authored this ad.
Yep.
You convinced that come 2014 that the Affordable Care Act is still going to be a major central issue of this campaign?
You know, we're an issue-based group, and we're talking about issues, and I do think Obamacare is an issue that, you know, if you look at the latest UNH poll, has proved to be one that is not very popular amongst granted staters right now, and I think it's one that could obviously become an issue. But our group is focused on highlighting that issue and trying to, you know, highlight Jeanne Shaheen's vote on that issue.
Okay, Democrats and friends of Jeanne Shaheen were quick to respond when that hit the airwaves. Go ahead and do it again.
Yeah, the people of New Hampshire know Jeanne Shaheen. They like Jeanne Shaheen. They trust Jeanne Shaheen. Your recent polling bears it out. She's not only the most well-known elected official here in New Hampshire, but she's also the most respected and the most well-liked. And there's no amount of phony attack ads from groups like Mr. Biundo's or anybody else's, frankly, that's going to change that.
People when you say phony, what do you mean phony?
The claims that they're making just aren't true.
Which part?
Which part? Well, fair question.
Just this week, we saw a major employer in New Hampshire with hundreds of employees announce that they were actually going to be moving people from part-time to full-time, that they were going to be extending their hours, increasing their take-home pay, and extending them health care benefits. And that's great news for the folks that work there. It's great news for their families. It's actually great news for the entire state. Everybody except for my friend here, whose ad just got debunked.
Actually, you know, it's kind of funny because I actually do think it's good news for the employees that if their hours are going to go up, that's obviously great. But there's many more examples of where that's not the case, unfortunately. You know, my wife works in the restaurant industry, and she's facing the same problems that a lot of people are, and even your own senator, who is the target of the issue in the ad, has said the same thing. She has come out and said that she thought that this is going to be a problem and it's a problem that needs to be addressed. My question to her would be, if she knew it was a problem when she voted for it, why did she vote for it? And if she didn't know it was a problem, how come she didn't read it? And I understand there's 20,000 pages in regulations that are now attached to this bill, and there's a lot to digest. And that's our concern, that, you know, it's the average family, it's the business owner. You know, we're a small business state, and people are concerned that they can't expand. You know, if somebody has employees and they're looking on whether they should be able to go up and raise employees or not, and they have to look at these mandates and they're not really sure what these mandates are going to do, that affects the real families, and that's what we're talking about here.
Obviously, you're looking at it from two different slants here. The economy has struggled and suggests that people are cutting back on their hours as a direct result of Jeanne Shaheen's vote for the Affordable Care Act. Obviously, might be a bit of a stretch, but when we talked about this ad earlier in the week, Ned Helms, friend of Jeanne Shaheen, came out and said, you know what, this is right in her wheelhouse. We'll be glad to debate Obamacare down the road.
Absolutely.
Why is that when there are so many unknowns? And I mean, the business community is out there saying, you know what, we don't know what this is all going to mean when it all shakes out with these state-based exchanges. You sure this is the argument, the battleground that the Democrats want to be?
Well, it's really simple. The Affordable Care Act is reducing costs and it's improving health here in New Hampshire. Perfect example of that is the closure of the Medicare Part D donut hole. Thousands of senior citizens across the state are saving on average more than $600 per year on prescription drugs. Collectively, they've saved over $20 million on prescription drug costs. That's a lot of cash. It's going right back into their pockets. The Affordable Care Act is improving health care and it's reducing costs.
It's not reducing costs. I own a small business. We just started up in January, and we're looking at buying health insurance. And everybody that we're talking about getting quotes.
I do want to point out the small business is named Right on Strategies. It's a conservative Republican group here, so let's not.
And the conservative Republican group can be found at strongnewhampshire.com. So.
Sure. All right, one thing that Mike hasn't mentioned about this ad is, where did you get the money to fund it? You're spending over $100,000 on a partisan attack ad 18 months before an election. Now, I don't know what the WMUR pay scale is like, but I don't have $100,000 lying around that I could give Mike to run an attack ad like this.
Well, I don't have $100,000 lying around either, so we're in the same boat.
Yeah, so the question now is, where did the money come from?
We're getting donations from all over the place. It's interesting that, you sent it out a tweet the other day talking about the fact that we sent out a solicitation for donations, and then you kind of try to make it into that we don't have money. So you can't have it really both ways. I mean, you're trying to have it both ways on this. And really, when you ask this question, all you're really trying to do is distract from the issue and the fact that 34% of the people support Obamacare, and that's what you're worried about. So that's why you're trying to go down this road instead of taking the issue.
It's a fundamental question about honesty. Where did this ad come from? Mike has some ties to
Well, it came from Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
And one of his biggest financial backers...
Did you see Rick Santorum's campaign? We didn't have a lot of money. So
no, but one of your biggest financial backers was caught on cable news saying that he didn't believe in family planning, he didn't believe in contraception, because this was his quote, because gals could just hold an aspirin between their knees.
Well,
before that, you worked for
I don't want to go back.
His mystery
I don't want to go
accounts.
back and relive the Bill Richardson campaign. If you want to go back and relive the Bill Richardson campaign, we can go back and relive the Santorum campaign.
I do want to ask you about the group Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire. It seems to have some redundant qualities, some of the other conservative groups that have been here longer. What is the mission of it? Who's in charge of it? How did it come together? Just tell us a little bit about it.
We decided, we talked to a lot of folks around the state, and obviously, I spent the last year and a half traveling around the country and trying to work on different presidential campaigns. And when we talked about what we could do for this state, we wanted to work with others inside the state to put a long-standing organization together that wasn't just going to be something that just goes up with attack ads and then leaves. We wanted to have something that actually really focuses on issues, something that's going to be around here for the long haul. And that's where Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire came from. We believe, obviously, in smaller and limited government, and those are the issues that we're standing up for. And one of those things that obviously is a very hot topic, and I think it's going to be a even hotter topic as 2014 comes and businesses and families are dealing with the impacts of Obamacare, is Obamacare, which is why it was one of the first issues that we took up.
All right, are you satisfied with that answer? You suggested that it was a shadowy group that got money out of thin air. I mean, bottom line is third-party groups are real, they're everywhere, and you got to deal with them.
They are, but it's unfortunate that Mike doesn't want to tell the people of New Hampshire where he got $100,000 from to pollute their airwaves with a phony attack ad.
So you said donations came from everywhere. So is that?
Yeah, I mean,
you want to elaborate on that?
It's funny. It's funny when groups that you don't agree with put up ads, you then go after them. But I don't see you going after groups that you do agree with. I mean, are you going after OFA, which is your former employer? Are you going?
There was not a C4.
But I understand. But so now it is. And it says BarackObama.com. Are you going after Granite State? Are you going after Granite State Progress? Are you going after Bloomberg? So it's the fact that you don't agree with our issue that we're all of a sudden a shadowy group. And the fact is, 34% of the people agree with you on Obamacare. The rest of the people either agree with us or aren't quite sure yet because they don't know what's in the bill, because it's got 20,000 pages of regulations that they have to then sift through to figure it out. And as Nancy Pelosi said, we're going to figure it out. And I think as more people go down the road and they figure out what the real impacts is, the worse it's going to get for the people that believe like you do on your side. So you're going to go and attack us and try, and I understand, listen, I'm in politics, I understand that's what you need to do when you don't have a winning issue, but if you want to debate the facts, I'm more than happy to do that.
We got about 30 seconds, you get the last word.
This is a winning issue. The Affordable Care Act is reducing costs here in New Hampshire, and it's improving health care. And Republicans are really the only ones that want to go backwards in time and refight the health care battles of the past. We're seeing it in Concord, where Republicans are standing in the way of Medicaid expansion. This would bring insurance to 58,000 New Hampshire taxpayers, New Hampshire workers. It would create 700 new jobs, and it would inject $2.5 billion into the New Hampshire economy. Republicans are trying to hold it up.
Indeed, and I'm sure that we're going to talk much more about the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, however you want to characterize it, over the course of the next couple of years. Gentlemen, good to see you, and it just so happens we're going to be talking about Medicaid expansion here from a different side, and some say that not joining the program is kind of like the, well, some say, Harrell Kirstein just said it, latest in the battle of the war on women. Stay with us.